Welcome back to the Have Not Room. I am Ben. I'm joined here by Brian and Chad. We are here to talk about the first week-ish of Celebrity Big Brother Season 3. We have, I think, 5 episodes to talk about, or 6 episodes to talk about, however many.
It's a lot. It's a lot.
Yeah,
Five, I think.
Wednesday, Friday, Sunday, Monday, Wednesday, I think. So that's 5.
Sounds right.
We have 2 regular evictions to talk about. 3 people have left the house, and a 4th will be leaving the house in 24 hours. So a lot to cover here. I guess we can start out here. We open our preview or our opening episode, and everyone's introducing themselves. And the first thing that really stood out to me in this episode was Carson was the first person to enter the house, and he essentially became like this impromptu like college tour guide, bringing everybody to all of the all the little places around the house that they need to learn, and like telling them where to put their bags. And he very much took this kind of early like alpha role. What do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, Carson is like by far presented as the most vocal person in the house, and honestly, the one we see most of in the diary room, at least for that first episode, like by far. And I mean, we were texting about this the whole time too. Like I was saying, he's like kind of imposing. He's very like upfront, and he's like always in all these conversations, and always, I don't know. It's just his personality. I don't think it's him trying to play the game any better. I mean, it is a little bit because he clearly knows what he's doing, but I think his personality is like half the reason why he's so upfront, talks about everything, and you could always hear him in every conversation.
Yeah, so I think when we previewed the season, we talked about how one of like the good things for him is he's very like camera savvy, very like media savvy, and the diary room, the editors, they took full advantage of that, letting him essentially be the narrator of this opening episode. From like front to back, he was pretty much the main voice we heard going on here, and I think that plays in well to him being someone who the fans are really going to like. And I mean, he's really funny and very like has a great personality for reality TV.
Yeah, no, he's been in the
He
reality
didn't
TV
win an Emmy
business.
for nothing. Let's say
He's been in the reality TV business for decades. So, definitely, he's definitely a seasoned veteran from that perspective. Obviously, with that in mind, he kind of became the focal point for our first kind of grouping and alliance that forms in this season. Starting out with a foursome of Carson, Cynthia, Shayna, and Todrick, who all kind of have loose connections to each other. Something else about Carson is he knows, I would say, multiple people in the house. We talked in the preseason about how him and Todrick know each other through Drag Race. Him and Cynthia know each other outside the house. I think that he has a connection to Shayna as well. So he kind of creates this alliance as him as like a fulcrum, knowing all of these people outside the house. This is even before we get to our first HOH competition. So they're hitting the ground running.
Yeah, they're kind of like sequestered into that back room. I was sad to see Big D's couch is no longer there. Never forget the couch. But this is a very interesting foursome, and I was like, oh, maybe 4 out of 11, like you can kind of influence the game very heavily if you all stick together, but that wouldn't be the case, really.
Yeah, so we move on. I think we should just probably talk about the first HOH, which is kind of a classic modern Big Brother competition, which is like the hanging ivy endurance competition where they're on like marionette strings. In this case, it's Met Gala themed, and they're all in ridiculous costumes. We have our first HOH of the season, and Misha walks away with the HOH comp with Teddy coming in second, funnily enough, and Todrick coming in third. Notably, as Todrick was falling, he was able to make a deal with Misha for safety, and then as Teddy was falling, Misha declined her offer for a deal.
Yeah, that's gonna feel real bad.
Yeah.
And also, I don't necessarily understand. Like, if I'm in Misha's like spot, it's like, okay, I win HOH, and then here are the two people who like gave me the best run.
Yeah.
Why not just be safe with them? Like, there's plenty of other people to nominate week one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%. I think that a lot of these players are making and have made a number of like very clear and obvious Big Brother mistakes for like people who are like actually like fans of the show and have watched it a lot. Which there are some players in the house, like a few, that are fans of the show. Like, you know, our three winner picks being three of the ones that we picked specifically because they were fans of the show. And so there are instances where people are being too vocal, being too honest, just like, you know, caring too much.
Cake.
Waking up in the middle of the night too often.
Yeah.
Not knowing that there's a jury that votes on the winner and how a power of veto works in the case of Lamar.
I did enjoy his quote that was going around where he's like, wait, if you lose, you get to pick who wins? That's not fair.
Yeah. I want the losers deciding whether or not I decide to win.
He's right.
Yeah.
No one wants to admit it, but he's right.
Yeah. They hate him because he speaks the truth. But yeah, so yeah, I think Misha played this not well.
No.
Like, you know, I understand. I think a lot of these players, I think this is something we see in Celebrity Big Brother, at least at the start of the seasons, until things kind of reach a point where the seal kind of gets broken, where a lot of them are trying to play as like honorably as possible because they want their image to be upheld, or they have like a certain perspective of how them playing sneakily or lying a lot could present negatively towards their future career or whatever, for you know, from a PR perspective. But I think they also would then miss the point that like a lot of the fans don't like players who go in.
I think you just end the sentence there. A lot of fans do not like players.
Sure, yeah.
They're going to be mean to you no matter what.
Right. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I know I personally, you know, would prefer them to play hard and like, you know what they're doing to a degree, and you know, not try to sanitize themselves for the good of their own image. But obviously, that's me trying to watch a you know, better version of the television show. But yeah, either way, I don't think that Misha played this perfectly. But on the flip side, we have this 4-group alliance deciding that 4 isn't enough, and Todrick in particular starts talking to some people. He smartly starts talking to the HOH. What a concept! While the other members of the alliance, in particular, I believe Cynthia, start talking to other people like Mirai and Teddy, who end up getting pulled into this 4-person alliance as kind of a 5th and a 6th, where they form the name Formation, which is definitely something that you need to know because it's totally relevant and this alliance doesn't collapse within like a day and a half.
Right. Oh, man.
Yeah, so thoughts, I guess, on forming a majority alliance that does not include the first HOH.
It's bold. It's bold.
Yeah. Certainly not the reason why it failed.
No.
I agree.
Not
much more to say.
Look, I this kind of comes from, I think, players who I think I tweeted this around last week, where there's a lot of the players in the house who have like a general understanding of what Big Brother strategy kind of looks like in theory, but they have no understanding of like when, why, and how you actually implement those individual strategic ideas. And so like the idea of forming a majority alliance is good in the first week, but the idea is to form a majority alliance around the first HOH so you can control the way that the first round of the game works and let that kind of set the pace for the rest of the game going into the future. If you make a majority alliance and don't include the first HOH, surprise, surprise, when the first HOH happens to start targeting your alliance just completely incidentally.
You know, it's tough. It's tough to predict such a thing.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, as we mentioned, it seemed like Misha here decides pretty quickly that for whatever reason, she wants to be targeting Teddy first. And so this is going to, be the main driving factor in a lot of the conversations she has. She starts to form an athletes alliance, which is her, Todrick, Lamar, and Chris Kirkpatrick. Definitely all athletes.
Yes, and definitely not leaving out an Olympic athlete who's also in the house. That made a lot of sense to me.
Yep.
Half the alliance is athletes, the other half isn't even.
Yeah. She's going to start having conversations with people about how is she going to take out Teddy? Who is she going to put up next to Teddy as a pawn? And here we get to like the fourth mistake that Misha is making, in my opinion, which is first round HOH. You don't mess with pawns and targets and all this crap. You find two people, and you'd be okay with either of them leaving, and you put them on the block. It's literally that simple. Don't overcomplicate it. You got to use the first HOH as a way to build relationships, build alliances, set a foundation for the future. Getting this cute and this messy and this crazy with a plan that is not necessary this early on in the game is just pointless. And just it was bound to make the mess that it ended up making.
Yep. Yeah, it was. I don't understand the need for pawns this early. It happens every season. People are like, well, I need this person to be a pawn, and I don't know if it's like a self-preservation thing. Like, I don't want to feel too bad, so I need to have one person who won't be mad at me.
Yep.
And it's like, just fucking play Big Brother. Like, come on. There are gonna be hard moments, and this is one of them. Yeah.
You also don't want to ask two separate people to be a pawn and then put both of them up.
It's that makes you seem really schemy, and it completely eliminates any goodwill you're trying to get going there.
Yeah, I mean, if we've said, first HOH is you use it to build relationships. If you're the first HOH and you put two people up, and you have literally the best excuse to put people up is that hey, I haven't really talked to you yet. I just don't know where your head's at with the game, so I'm just putting you up. Sorry. That's all there is to it. You don't have to be oh, can you please be a pawn? Don't hate me later. It's who cares if they do, if you have an alliance that you trust. And those people, how many times do you see first noms, at least one of them, the initial noms, stay nommed and become a block goat, weeks on end. So it's just you don't really have to worry about those people unless they're, unless you're targeting two top tier players. But I don't know. I think the whole especially with Misha saying, put two pawns up and tell them they're both pawns. That's just, it's so stupid. You have literally the easiest excuse ever of just saying, I haven't talked game with you much. I don't know you as well yet. And you could probably only do that for the first 2 weeks. And after that, it's all right, we know what's going on here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, definitely. So with all this going on, we also have a twist that's been introduced. The Mon Juan Twist, which is a purse that's also a hat to fit the Met Gala theme of ridiculous clothing items. The first half of this twist is that somebody is going to be safe after like a pass the parcel game, where they did this sort of at the beginning of Big Brother OTT as well, where you pass around this item to a different person, and the last person to get it, the twist activates on them. In this case, the twist activated on Cynthia, and she is safe for the week, for the round. I guess it's gonna be hard to
Yeah,
keep
the round.
round
We're just doing the
cycle.
round.
Yeah. And then this is gonna come up later, second half. But very important to keep in mind. Not actually super important because Cynthia was never really on Misha's radar anyways. But good to mention. Definitely not the worst twist they've ever done.
No, it's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
No, I like how it
actually
ended.
quite liked that challenge in OTT
Yeah.
too. For I believe it was the first HOH challenge.
Yep.
It's just different and fun, and it kind of forces people to show their cards, a little bit. So I liked that a lot.
Yeah. Any twist that has like an element where you're able to like socially play it a little bit is fine with me. Like the second half that we'll talk about could have been executed better, I think.
Yeah, it was a little rushed.
Yeah, it was a little rushed. But it's Celebrity Big Brother. A lot of things are going to be a little rushed.
For sure.
So Misha has her sights set on Teddy. However, a number of things transpire here. As we mentioned, she's going to start asking people to be a pawn. The first person she asks to be a pawn is Mirai. And Mirai kind of tepidly agrees, and then finds out that Teddy is the target. Teddy at this point is one of her closest allies within the formation. And so she immediately runs back to Teddy, tells Teddy, hey, you're the target, watch out. Teddy decides to take this information and tell Todrick, hey, Mirai told me that Misha told her that I'm the target. And throughout all of this, Todrick has been getting closer and closer to Misha and like buttering her up as the first HOH because that's one of the smarter things you can do in this position, while also becoming more and more jaded with his formation alliance because he thinks that they're making decisions without him, and a number of other pieces of drama that we couldn't see on the feeds where he decides that the alliance is not for him anymore. And so he goes and rats out Mirai based off of Teddy's information to Misha. So a lot of things go down here.
Yeah. Unfortunate for Mirai. I mean, I get it. I get the impulse to like want to give your friend a heads up. But you're also playing a game, and there comes a point where it's like, maybe I do like this person, but if this person's the target week one, maybe it's just not in my best interest to like go down with the ship here.
Yeah, cut ties while you can.
Yeah.
Especially week one. Come on.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that. I think that Teddy ratting out Mirai, whether intentionally or unintentionally, was probably worse than what Mirai did. Like comparatively, like generally, if you're in that position, it doesn't really behoove you to keep telling a bunch of other people that you're the target. It's probably just better off for you to go one-on-one to the HOH and see if you can figure stuff out yourself, which Teddy does eventually do, and almost gets that to work anyways. So I don't know. I think that I can understand the decision from Mirai. She knows that she's already a pawn anyways, so it's not like she's going to be talking herself onto the block, right? She's already going to be on the block next to Teddy either way, presumably, is the plan. Right. So the worst she can do is she's like turning herself into the target instead of the pawn. But like, if she thinks she has better relationships within formation than Teddy does, maybe it wouldn't matter. Obviously this all ends up kind of being moot to a point because formation falls apart. But yeah, it's still, I think it's okay. Like it's definitely not great, but I definitely think that Teddy played this worse than Mirai played it. but definitely both mistakes.
Yeah.
Clearly.
So yeah, at this point, Misha changes her tune, and now she has a conversation with Teddy, and Teddy basically offers her safety in exchange for Misha not targeting her. Misha's like, okay, that's fine, because I'm kind of pissed off at Mirai now anyways. And she's like, okay, I'm going to put Mirai up now as a target. So now I need a new pawn, because Mirai had previously been my pawn. So now I'm going to approach Carson and ask Carson to be my pawn. Yeah.
Just keeps going.
Yep. So yeah, that ends up being the final play. Carson as the pawn and Mirai as the target. And obviously, this is where it ends, right?
Of course.
Hopefully.
So we have our veto competition. It is a logic puzzle, basically. And Carson ends up winning by a lot.
He smoked him straight up. Just like
Not
even close. Yeah.
Yeah.
Just ridiculous.
So yeah. So now, now what is Misha gonna do?
Doesn't have a ton of options. I mean, she does, but not
Yeah.
real options.
Right. Presumably, she's close to Chris Kirkpatrick at this point. She's becoming very close to Todrick. Lamar is within this Athletes Alliance group. So Cynthia is immune. So that leaves Todd, Chris Kattan, Shayna, and Teddy, basically, as her 4 options. And quickly, I think, Shayna and Teddy also kind of do this calculus in their head of like, she doesn't have many options.
Oh, man.
And so here's where the Formation Alliance pretty much falls apart because Shayna makes a decision to go up to Misha and try to save her own ass to guarantee herself safety by basically ratting out the entire Formation Alliance to Misha, telling her everything, and throwing primarily Teddy under the bus. So, which is,
Yeah.
definitely a rat move, but definitely an effective move.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, what are you gonna do? Just let yourself be nominated? No.
Yeah, no,
You
yeah.
gotta
Look,
do something.
Yeah.
2 members of the Alliance are on the block. A third one is likely going to be going up as a replacement nominee. The Alliance is already in shambles. Todrick is basically has 1 foot out the door in terms of leaving the Alliance. Anyways, was already semi-ratting the Alliance out to Misha. Anyways, you gotta realize when the ship is sinking and jump.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
So yeah, at this point, Misha changes her target again, back to Teddy.
So we've gone full circle.
Yep.
We're finally back.
And so now the presumable majority is with Misha being HOH. On top of that, the votes being Chris Kirkpatrick, Todrick, Lamar, Shayna, and then Todd also as a 5th, right? There's going to be 8 votes to evict, so you need 5 or 4 plus a tie, right? So presumably Misha has the votes on her side to get Teddy evicted. But unfortunately, off feeds the first week, there was a lot of drama that occurred between Mirai and Chris Kirkpatrick. It's unclear exactly what happened with this drama because every time the players talked about it, the feed's cut, and so there's a lot of
weird.
Yeah, there's a lot of feed cuts. There's been 25 minutes of useful feeds today because of feed cuts. So that creates a situation where Chris Kirkpatrick and Mirai have personal issues with each other, and Chris Kirkpatrick likes Teddy, and Teddy apparently was kind to him throughout these issues that he was having. So he is struggling with the moral decision of, do I vote with this alliance that I've created and do what Misha wants and vote out Teddy, or do I vote out Mirai? And this is when the feeds turn on, by the way. All of this previous stuff happened off feeds.
Jesus.
But yeah.
I mean, it sucks that we don't have the full context, and perhaps one day we will. Maybe, I don't know. It's not like a normal season where like these players would go on to like RHAP necessarily to give us the lowdown on like what really happened. So it's hard to say like what the right move for him is.
Yeah.
But yeah, very interesting nonetheless.
All right. I guess we move on here to our eviction, our first eviction of the night, or of the season. But before we get there, we have the second half of the Mon Juan Twist. Everyone, Reddit figured it out, Twitter figured it out, half the contestants figured it out. If you turn Mon Juan upside down, it says Nom Now. And the way that this is going to work is it's going to be the same game, but now you don't want to end up with the bag, because if you end up last with the bag, you will have to replace yourself with one of the nominees and become a nominee for this first eviction, immediately headed into the eviction right after.
Great, but
yeah. Yeah.
I guess it's fine if you're in the majority and you know the target, but
yes, which is what basically ends up happening. Chris Kattan ends up making the decision between Lamar and Todd as to who will be the nominee. He saves Lamar and puts Todd up on the block, essentially. Todd, knowing that the plan is to vote out Teddy and that there are at least 4, if not 5 votes already there to vote out Teddy, smartly replaces Mirai. And then the plan does go through, and Chris Kattan, Carson, and Cynthia vote to evict Todd. However, the other 5 all stick to the plan and vote out Teddy. Mellencamp as our first boot from Celebrity Big Brother Season 3. Definitely a shock to all of us, and not something we predicted in our preseason preview.
What can you say, Ben? You watch a couple of these seasons of Big Brother, you get a feel for who's drawing dead the second they walk into the house.
Yeah, people have energy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh man.
That was the easiest first boot pick ever.
I will say this. Teddy exceeded my expectations. I will say this. Because she did fight very hard to stay. I think she fought harder to stay than like a lot of players do in a regular season of Big Brother, frankly. She was campaigning hard for votes. She had people on her side like Cynthia who was campaigning hard for votes and trying to twist the screws into people like Chris Kirkpatrick and like try to play on his heartstrings a little bit. They were tearing up his heart a little bit, and she got close. 3 out of 8 votes in a first eviction, where they thought they might get a 4th or a 5th from Shayna / Chris, is not nothing, right? But alas, she leaves.
Oh well, we barely knew you.
Yeah.
Yeah, as her dad said, she was on a show.
She was on a show. Yep.
Yep.
She was. Can't deny that. But things don't really get better for Mirai here. From here on out, it goes pretty horribly, actually.
Yeah,
As bad as you could.
I mean, with her being saved here, she does make some good inroads with people like Todrick and Shayna and Misha, to the point where they all actually start to feel some amount of trustworthiness for her. And pretty much the only person in the house that she has any kind of worry about moving forward to the next weeks would be Chris Kirkpatrick. So let's move into this next HOH, which is Rotten Potatoes themed, where you have to roll a ball on a thingy and get it in a hole, and you get points or something.
Yep.
And the
very
winner,
Big Brother competition.
classic
Say
Big
that.
Brother theme of rolling a ball into point thingies. And as insinuated, Chris Kirkpatrick becomes our second HOH.
Not great. Not great for Mirai.
Nope, not great. Yeah. And yeah, he immediately is like very, very openly being like, yeah, I want to target Mirai. I did what my alliance wanted for the first round. Now it's my turn. It's my HOH. We're going to do what I want this time. And I want Mirai out. To the chagrin of everybody he's working with, basically, because they all try to tell him to put up Carson.
Yeah.
I know. I was like, stop fighting back on your alliance. Stop. Just go along with it. Who cares?
So here's the thing, right? What do you guys think is correct here? Because I could definitely see both sides of this in terms of like, you definitely want to make moves. Even this early in the game, I think you want to make moves that are going to be beneficial for you. And I think that potentially, if anything, it might have just been the way he handled it was not great. And he also didn't really... I think a lot of people in this season are really bad at reading between the lines in a lot of conversations. And so there'll be a lot of people who talk kind of in this like code of how they're thinking because they want people to keep making assumptions about their own priorities. And people are very bad at reading between the lines of what those priorities actually mean. So a lot of the conversations that Chris Kirkpatrick has during this round are have like that kind of undercurrent to it, where his allies, particularly Misha and Todrick, are basically like, well, if you don't take out Carson, and Carson wins the next HOH, he's going to come after us. And the way that conversation continues to go is just very non-productive because Chris Kirkpatrick is dancing around the fact that he does not give a shit if Carson wins HOH and targets Misha and Todrick. And in fact, at this point, Chris Kirkpatrick and Shayna have basically decided to play this kind of middle game between the Cynthia, Carson, and Todrick Misha pairs and play them against each other. And so keeping Carson around specifically to target Todrick and Misha is literally his plan. So a lot of these conversations is very unproductive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, if that's his plan, then he's arguably... He's, like you said, he's going about it so incorrectly and could have handled it way better. I think it's too early in the game to be fighting your entire alliance on something. Like, if your whole alliance is saying, don't do this, probably should pivot. I mean, Carson sure is a big target, but, like, there's got to be another target in the house that you could go for. I mean, Mirai, but, like, shifting to Carson, like, who cares? Or if, like, you're shifting to someone else who's a big target, too. I mean, Carson just crushed a veto, and he's a big presence in the house. So, I mean, I don't think it would be a big deal to pivot. If it was me, you please your alliance, they're loyal to you, and it's only week 2. So that's probably a solid plan. To fight them this much, it's just as easy for an alliance member to say, you know what, screw this guy, let's fake it and get him out later. You easily fall to the bottom of that alliance because you just prove that you won't be loyal to them. So I think it's... I don't even know. I think it's, if you're an individual and you're really confident in yourself, then go for it. But that's not the type of gameplay I think is good for Celebrity Big Brother, where it's already rushed, and any little thing like that, you can carry that and be like, well, Chris Kirkpatrick didn't go with us week 2, so that's reason enough for me to boot him week 6
or 4
or 4.
or 4.
Is there the possibility that there could have been a middle ground here, where or would that have just been everyone unhappy and then like is Cynthia as a potential target to kind of pacify both sides good enough, or would that have just like made everyone like mad?
Yeah, I don't think there was a middle ground. Like Todrick especially isn't really worried about Cynthia. Partially because he feels like he can repair those social bonds, and he has actually done an okay job of repairing those social bonds to a degree, at least up until recently. And also because she's considered less of a threat in the competitions than Carson, who is like more consistently performing like in the top half, or like as a threat to win competitions. And also has like a stronger social presence. So I don't really think there was a middle ground. I think the options, like maybe like Chris Kattan could have been like a way for them to like kind of mark time for a week, or mark time for a round, and then like reassess headed forward. But it kind of just really came down to Chris Kirkpatrick knew that Mirai still had, potentially lingering issues with him. And even though everybody was telling him that they would be able to control Mirai's nominations and point her Carson, if he uses this round to take out Carson and then Mirai wins HOH, now what's Mirai going to do? Right?
Right.
Because now Carson's out, so like the obligation that she had given to them to target Carson the next opportunity is now not on the table. So like I think he is correct to be worried that if Mirai moves forward in the game, that it's going to just be more difficult for him to maneuver. I just think that the way that he managed his relationships and his alliance was very sloppy. And a lot of the players, again, this season are just very like unsubtle and very like kind of messy in how they have conversations in general, just because they're not used to like talking in a big brother way, right? They're not used to like kind of caging their thoughts around with like a strategic veneer and like the kind of ways that you can like lie or obscure the truth within the game. Like they're just not used to it, so it's not really something that they've prepared themselves for, I think.
So yeah, I guess it's gonna come down to the veto, which was live. That was weird.
Yeah, and also importantly, well, not importantly, because it doesn't end up happening, but there is a plan that was teased on the episode that didn't end up panning out, and they do talk about this after on either the Monday or the Wednesday episode, I think. No, it was the Monday episode was the eviction, so it was yesterday's episode. Post the Mirai eviction, Shayna and Chris have a conversation about this. There was a plan if Mirai or Chris Kirkpatrick were to win the veto for, or I guess Kattan as well. The plan was for if Kirkpatrick were to win the veto, to take Chris Kattan off the block and to backdoor Todrick and send him out the house.
Jesus.
That would have required someone to perform pretty well in the veto, and they did not perform.
Well, no, but I mean, Chris Kirkpatrick didn't for sure. He is blind as a bat apparently, or can't read, or didn't understand the concept of the competition, or something, or just I don't know. I can't imagine how one could perform that poorly in that competition unless you were blind.
Unless it was on purpose.
Yeah, and he was asked by Carson if he threw that, and he was like, "Nope, just can't see."
Oh my god, that was the worst veto I've ever watched. Well, by Chris Kirkpatrick. I mean, come on, man.
Yeah, but I mean, we did have Shayna winning this veto. And Shayna was in on this plan. So, theoretically, Shayna could have executed this plan, taken down Chris Kattan, Todrick goes up, Todrick goes home.
Mm-hmm.
So, what do you guys think about that? That as a plan, I guess.
I mean, I think, well, knowing where stuff goes, it would have been great for them to pull that move off. I don't really know where they got the yips right at the moment where they could have made the move. I don't really know what happened here.
Mm-hmm.
And then complained about it afterwards, being like, "Oh, did we miss our shot?" Yeah, you did miss your shot.
Okay. The rationalization that was shown in the episode was they didn't know whether Chris Kattan would understand the game enough to realize that he should vote with them.
That was awesome.
Yeah, which is, you know what, I can't necessarily fault them because Chris Kattan was very upset at being nominated and said that Chris Kirkpatrick's reasoning of "you don't talk game with me" was a bad reason to nominate somebody. Well, that's basically that's like the most legitimate reason to ever nominate somebody. Like that's the reason that everybody lies about to cover up their actual reasons for nominating somebody.
Yeah.
It's like that, and you're you're too awesome. Like those are the two things that people say. It's like you're too awesome of a person, and you know what? We just don't talk game too much, right? Those are like the two
competitor too much to backdoor you. So
yeah, like those are like the go-to legitimate reasons to use as a lie to cover up. And Chris Kattan's like, no, that's a bad reason to put somebody up. Like, okay, what is a good reason? What's a good reason to put somebody up then?
It's week 2. And
what's a better reason?
He sleeps 90% of the time, which is well known. So obviously it's a talk game, but that's like the most legitimate reason you could make for Chris Kattan to go home.
Yeah.
Other than you are the least threatening person in this house, and I don't want to piss anyone else off.
Yeah, my man's gonna fire the fuck out of his agent, by the way, for getting him involved in this bullshit.
Oh my god.
I guess he's not enjoying one moment of this.
Yeah.
He's like, I thought Big Brother was, but I guess not.
Yeah, he thought. He thought. I don't know what he thought about the game, but it's like they're having packages of him falling down in the dark. Like, it is just a disaster.
Was fun. That was a funny little bit.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, we will obviously get to the Chris Kattan's.
Chris Kattan's like, I am a famous comedian, man. I did not need this.
Yeah. But anyways, regardless, Todrick backdoor didn't happen. Shayna leaves the nominations the same, and despite Chris Kattan on eviction night telling everybody, please, for the love of God, vote me out, Mirai deserves to stay, Mirai is evicted unanimously.
Yeah, Dr. Will could never.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
It is.
Mirai, as Chris said, hey, not for nothing, Mirai would like to be here. I would very much not like to be here. Mm-hmm. So I think we can work out a thing here.
Yeah, well, again, though, this kind of lends itself to Chris Kattan, another example of how he doesn't understand the game fundamentally, because somebody not wanting to be there is the perfect person to force to keep around, so that either they can be a non-entity and you can get rid of them at a point later where it makes more sense. You have basically a buffer round, or they could self-evict in 2 days and you could basically win yourself a free round by doing nothing. So it's literally just free to not vote out somebody who's asking to be voted out. In fact, we heavily criticized people when Brian and I covered Celebrity Big Brother Season 1 way back in the day, when they voted out Keisha Pulliam when she asked to be voted out, because very stupid. It's very stupid to vote somebody out who clearly is asking to be voted out and doesn't want to be there. Let them self-evict. Tell them, hey, if you want to leave, there's the door. I'm not going to do it for you.
Yeah, I mean, this was Chris Kattan's milk has been depleted moment.
Yep.
And it didn't come through for him the same way it did for her.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's pretty much it. We say goodbye to Mirai here. She was fun. Definitely, as we kind of predicted in our preseason coverage, ran into a lot of issues with socially fitting into the house just because of
Yeah.
Demographic differences. She's
Literally exactly
significantly
what we said. Like
yeah.
she's just
Yeah.
at such a different place in life than like
Yeah.
everyone else. That is just like just impossible to relate.
And much to Carson's chagrin, she mentions it in her eviction speech. She's like, "Yeah, everyone here is old."
That was awesome.
Mhm.
No one's lying.
Yeah, it sucks that it didn't seem like she had a positive experience on the show,
Nope.
unfortunately.
This is awful. Can we get her on a regular season of Big Brother?
Yeah, look, like we said this as well. I said this. I think she would do well on a normal season of Big Brother with like a cast that's where she's like of average age for the cast, and not like 10 years younger than the next youngest person and like 30 years younger than the average or whatever.
It's like Survivor has Olympians on pretty frequently. Like it's not a weird thing to have an Olympian with like a normal cast. So I don't see why Big Brother would be against that either.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like they're world famous people. I mean,
not other than
obviously
for that Olympics. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, obviously she's a big name and made Celebrity Big Brother, but if she was on like a normal season, how much of the cast would actually know her unless they were picked specifically because they know her?
No, I certainly would not have any idea.
Yeah, I would have no idea. She could have said, "Oh, I'm a figure skater." I'd be like, "Oh, cool. Are you training for the Olympics?" Like,
right.
well, actually. But yeah.
Hey, Big Brother Twitter really likes her, so she really won. The rare like come out of the house and have Twitter be nice to you. House guest.
I mean, it helps that like pretty much her whole content on the show was like being kind of a rootable underdog who the rest of the house like treated as kind of a pariah. Like that's usually a pretty easy way to just not be hated.
Sweet spot.
Yeah. So yeah, we say goodbye to Mirai. I personally was not super surprised that the backdoor didn't happen. A lot of people on Twitter had got themselves very excited about this potential backdoor, and were predictably disappointed by it. But I've been so jaded by Big Brother to the point where I will never let myself assume that something awesome like that would happen. So if it does end up randomly happening, then I'd be like, oh my god, I never actually expected this to come through. But when it doesn't happen, I'm not actually that upset.
Yeah. Oh man, you're right. Twitter talked itself into this, and then they basically just like did it to themselves. Like, I don't know how you guys keep doing this. Yeah, as usual.
As usual.
Oh man.
Keep the comments after this posted.
All right. Now we move into our third HOH competition of the season. Another a modern Big Brother classic, which is the strip down while holding buttons down competition.
Oh.
Yeah, the most competitive HOH I think we've ever seen. Everyone just going so hard in this competition.
Yeah, let's Chad. You were very vocally upset. Let's let you talk about this one.
I was watching it live, texting you guys, and I mean, like half of them just stood up and stripped, like no faster than you or I would on like a casual night.
Yeah,
I'm like,
just like getting ready for bed.
Yeah. I'm just like, what are these people doing? And like, they're like, I was thinking like, all right, maybe someone could like manipulate one of the skis to like hold the button down. Like, is that legal? I don't know, but like, I didn't think. Oh my god! I mean, I get not holding one button down and doing something real quick. Like that's fine, because everyone's gonna do that. But Chris Kattan, it's Chris Kattan, so who gives a shit? Straight up just stood up and it's just like, like
that was a baller move. He stood up not in an attempt to quickly take everything off with all his like appendages free. Just he stood up to casually take his clothes off. Like,
I loved it. I love him because he's so oblivious and clearly he either doesn't know the game or doesn't care about the game, or probably most likely both.
Oh yeah.
But
He's quickly gone into the meta world peace like territory
oh
of
my
just
god,
like
yeah.
no idea what's happening, don't want to be here very much, will not take this seriously.
Mm.
And that's kind of a fun spot for these types of seasons to have someone
Yeah.
like that.
But like 2 other people did it too. Like I think who was the other?
Cynthia and Todd were the other two.
Todd. Yeah, I keep
Yeah.
wanting to say.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Lamar was like kind of half-assing it. We trying a little bit, but still, like it wasn't crazy.
Yeah.
But I was just like,
What do you think the max was? Because like once it said Chris Kattan maxed out, I was like,
Well,
maybe it was an hour and like a lot of people will have maxed out, but nope. There were some really high scores, so I don't know how long he took.
Had to be like an hour and a half,
Yeah,
like 100 minutes, something like that.
something like that.
Yeah. He also didn't finish stripping. So.
Okay, so maybe that was the
Yeah.
issue.
But either way, like it didn't matter.
This gets out. Yeah, fine. This is fine.
Good enough.
Yeah,
got the
I'm
skis
not
off.
even gonna hit the buzzer, so
Yeah.
I'm
I'm
just
telling
gonna
you, like,
sit down.
4 people this season are trying to win Big Brother. The other, what is it, 7, are just like there to be there, and if they happen to win, cool.
Yeah. I agree. But yeah, no. The funniest thing for me was Cynthia, who also did the ignore the buttons completely, even though it's pretty easy to at least hold down one of them.
Yeah.
And strip down very casually and slowly, and then wander over to the hot tub and hit the button. And she was like, "Oh, I'm actually pretty optimistic that I could have done pretty well here." And she did the second worst after Chris Kattan.
Yeah.
By a lot.
It's rough.
So yeah,
Oh,
pretty
yeah,
much.
we forgot to mention Kato Kaelin made an appearance. How did we
True.
forget that?
That's true, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Celebrity Big Brother US Season 2 star. I think this is also the round he got eliminated in.
I think so.
Yeah.
But hey, I'm happy for him. I'm happy he's still out there.
Yeah. Yeah, good for him. He's still, I expected another Tom Green when they said
I thought
that,
it was Tom Green too. Yeah.
Yeah, but, Kato Kaelin makes sense as well.
Mm-hmm.
Also probably has very little going on.
Probably.
Yeah, that was a weird video. Very odd video. Very those drink noises were a little much. I don't know about that.
It was only Kato could do that.
He's getting his drink on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why don't they just keep him in the hot tub? People
They had to jump
with him.
in.
Yeah.
Probably not COVID safe. Yeah.
Probably not.
Yeah.
No, yeah, I didn't think of that.
Another thing COVID has robbed the
Yeah,
masses of.
They didn't get to have a hot tub party with Kato Kaelin. Yeah.
Goes out to him.
But yeah. So we end up with like 2, maybe 3 people here productively producing any kind of results in these HOH competition. And that's Misha and Todrick, and then also kind of Carson does okay. But mostly it's Misha and Todrick who do the competition correctly, basically, are the only 2.
Who actually participate.
Yeah, who actually try to win and don't actively sabotage themselves and be like, oh, this is actually the strategy, is to ignore every mechanic involved in this competition and just turn my brain off.
It would have been kind of fun if every single person just completely ignored the buttons. That would have been kind of interesting.
Yeah. They made a pact, like, let's screw these buttons, let's see who can strip fast.
Yep.
Yeah. But no, Misha Tate ends up becoming our 3rd HOH and wins her 2nd consecutive HOH in the season. She has now won 100% of the HOH competitions she has competed in.
This is what happens when you put an active professional athlete in a game with
To be
people
fair,
who are
she's retired. She's retired.
No, she's training. She's coming back.
Is she coming back?
That's why she's punching the bag
I
so
think she
hard.
said that.
I thought she was just like doing a physical trainer.
She
now or
did
something.
retire at some point, but she's already come back.
Okay, so she
That's why
retired.
she's like
kids,
punching the
she was
bag and
like,
stuff
okay.
all the time. Yeah,
She got to burn the baby weight off and then come back.
yeah, exactly.
We'll see. We might have Misha Tate just comp her way to the end and win. So we'll see how that plays out. But
From week one.
yeah, from week one.
Yeah.
Um,
Wire to wire domination.
yeah.
Best win ever.
And before we can really get through to the strategy of this round, we do have something that happened where Chris Kattan ends up self-evicting here.
Yeah, let's say emphasis on the something,
Yeah.
because they will not tell us directly on the show what
Right.
happened.
Yeah. There's speculation that he might have hurt himself, which is, he has back neck issues from accidents he's had in his past, and he's had multiple reconstructive surgeries. They've been doing a lot of physical comps.
Neck and back
Yeah.
are fucked up.
Yeah.
It sucks. I mean, he's most known for the night at the Roxbury sketch where he's dancing all over the place. And
Yeah.
that's not where he's at anymore, which is really sad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. He definitely, I can't fault him too much for not contorting his body during this HOH cup and trying super hard in these very physical competitions. But yeah, I mean, look, does it significantly change the outcome of the game? No, not really. He wasn't, as we said, he wasn't really an active player. He was probably one of, if not the person in the house who had the least grasp on the strategy aspect of the game. Even Lamar, who we had mentioned before, didn't understand any of the rules of Big Brother, has at least been trying to pick up the game and learn it on the fly and try to have an active role in social strategy.
Yeah, he at least understands what to do.
Yeah, he's naturally sociable enough to get by, and he's actively asking questions to learn the rules. Obviously, it would be nice for people to know the rules coming in, but at least he's
too much
trying.
to ask.
Yeah. Whereas Chris Kattan definitely had demonstrably no interest at all in the strategic aspect of the game. So from that perspective, it's not a huge loss from that game, but he was an incredibly entertaining presence on the show and the feeds. He was great in the diary room. He had a lot of fun scenes on the show, so it is sad to see him go. Understandable if he was not he was definitely not having a good time.
Nope. just very actively and aggressively having a terrible time on Celebrity Big Brother and being very open about this.
Mm-hmm. So
I'm sure he was literally okay, but for real, if I quit, how much money will I actually lose out on?
Right.
They're oh, 10,000 or something. He was that's fine.
Yeah.
I'm out.
Not worth it. Yeah.
No.
So yeah, now we're left with 8 contestants left in the house, and the game is kind of at this point loosely 4 pairs, where you have Todrick and Misha, Carson and Cynthia, Chris. Now we can just call him Chris. We don't have to call him Chris Kirkpatrick or anything. Chris and Shayna, and then Todd and Lamar. Although, in my opinion, the strategically loosest of those pairs are either Todd and Lamar or Chris and Shayna, where Todd has been trying to actively reposition himself as a third to Todrick and Misha, whereas Lamar has been getting closer and closer to targeting Todrick and Misha because he doesn't appreciate how their personalities have been coming off, and that Misha has basically been kind of running the show for the entire season.
Which is
so. And then on the other side, you have Shayna and Chris, where Shayna is trying to reposition herself as a third to Carson and Cynthia. Before we came on, they just formally kind of reformed the remnants of the formation called the Twisters, with the 3 of them. Particularly with how a week or round 3 might be playing out here, it's probably a decent pivot for Shayna. Chris is still somewhat loyal to Misha, even though he's become more and more disillusioned with Todrick and definitely has come to a point where he does not want Todrick in the game anymore. So a lot of interesting kind of configurations going on here. But pretty easy pick from Misha here, especially with Chris Kattan leaving. Even he technically leaves after the nominations, but you know, with Chris
I was
Kattan off
actually
the board.
like legitimately wondering if they just edited him in, like, but
No,
I
he
think
left.
he was there with
He left
everyone.
out. He left between the noms and the veto.
Yeah.
I think he actually might have left. We might have found. I think we found out that he left when the feeds came back from the veto competition. So I think he left probably shortly before or during when the veto competition was played.
Yeah. Hopefully he didn't get hurt during.
Yeah,
the
that's my biggest worry is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Misha predictably puts up Carson and Cynthia, with Carson as the target. This can't possibly go wrong, right?
No, it's fine. It's chill.
Yeah. All right.
So spoilers for Friday's episode.
Yeah. Spoilers
Friday,
now.
That's when.
Yes. Yeah. Spoilers for tomorrow's eviction episode. Veto results / eviction episode. / we also I guess spoiled that Chris Kattan's self-eviction will be on tomorrow's episode as well.
Right. Yeah.
But yeah, this is going to go pretty bad because we're going to come back from the veto competition, and for the second round in a row, Shayna has won the power of veto. And now we're going to enter in back-to-back-to-back really stupid and pointless conversations over and over again, where everybody is lying and trying to reposition themselves, while Shayna is trying to pull off a move that we can argue whether or not it's intelligent. You know, I'll be critical of her, given that I think that she's still probably the most likely to win, and she's my winner pick. I'll still criticize her decisions here. But Shayna is going to start coming up with a master plan here to veto Carson and try and trick Misha into replacing him with Todd. However, there is still the idea that she could replace him with Chris Kirkpatrick, with Chris, because with Kattan off the board, and with this being kind of a move that's very much against what Misha in particular wants, it wouldn't really make sense for Misha to do that. So this is putting potentially, like, essentially what Shayna is doing here by talking about doing this move is gambling with Chris's life to try and undermine Misha's position in the game to save Carson, with the intent of having Carson around to potentially beat Todrick in the next HOH so that Carson could take that shot for her. That's the idea. It's very risky.
Very. Well, especially for old Chris.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would agree to this plan if I was her ally, quite frankly.
So the issue is Chris is very, very tepid in how he kind of approaches this. He says a lot during this day or two of, like, you know, if I end up going up and I go home, then so be it. Stuff like that.
Right.
Not really great. Not really a good thing to do, in my opinion. I think that probably should have fought a little bit harder to, one, gain Misha's trust, which we'll talk about, and two, convince Shayna to not do this, because it's really, really, really stupid. It's bad. It's, like, you can argue, I think, the efficacy of it for Shayna's game. I think it's up in the air, potentially, whether it's good or not. But it's very bad, definitely, for Chris. It's like a completely unnecessary risk if you're Chris.
Yeah, it's terrible. Terrible.
Yep.
And, you know, it turned out to be terrible.
Yeah. So the reason this was malformed, in my opinion, is because when Shayna approaches Misha for conversations about this, she frames it from the perspective of, what would you do if I were to take down Cynthia? Which is not her plan, and not what she ends up doing. That is not really going to give you any useful information, because if you're making a decision predicated on somebody's understanding of you doing a certain thing, and then you do the opposite, you can't really rely on what they told you they were going to do at that point, because you've kind of broken your half of that leverage. So I don't know what the plan was there. And on top of that, Misha approaches Chris because she is being fed this idea of like, hey, what if I take down Cynthia and you put up Todd? Would that be okay? And Misha's like, well, would that be okay? Let me go ask Chris. Chris, if Cynthia comes down and I put up Todd, you wouldn't turn on me and vote out Todd, would you? You'd still vote out Carson for that, like I want, right? And Chris doesn't do a great job here. Yeah. Not good. He basically asks her to repeat the question like 3 different times. He's like, well, I mean, in this case, you're not putting me up, right? And she's like, no, I would be putting Todd up. Well, I mean, that's the plan, right? The plan is Carson. That's what you want, right? Yeah, I would like you to vote out Carson. Well, I mean, I guess that's the plan. If that's the plan, I mean, if I were to go up and go out, then that's whatever. But, the plan's Carson, I guess, right? And then he goes on a tangent about how he doesn't trust Todrick anymore. So
good. That's what you want to say to Todrick, #1 ally.
Yeah.
Chris just throwing out all kind of whack vibes here. Like, come on, man.
Big throwing in the towel energy here from Chris.
Yep.
Big bye energy.
Oh God.
What can you do? What can you do?
Yeah. And also, if we're talking about this from Shayna's perspective, Shayna starts counting votes. Shayna goes up to Lamar. Lamar probably going to end up being the swing vote here, or one of the swing votes potentially. And she asks him, if the final nominees are Cynthia and Todd, who would you vote out? And he says, I would vote out Cynthia because Todd deserves it more. Not what Shayna wants. Shayna would want Todd out in that particular scenario. And then she asks, okay, what if it's Cynthia versus Chris? And he would be like, yes, I'd vote out Chris. So I don't know what Shayna was particularly thinking. I don't know what Shayna's perceived best case scenario from this was. Mm-hmm. I don't know if she's secretly trying to sabotage Chris's game to get his stink off of her so she can try to do the middle rat floater thing by herself. Mm-hmm. But definitely not a very well conceived plan.
No. So, yeah, it's just
Lord in heaven.
it's just a lot of sloppiness.
Yeah.
And a lot of drama. So
yeah.
That's
so good. Yeah, we the veto meeting happens. Feuds go off for quite a while. Feuds come back. And it looks like Shayna has followed through on this plan and vetoed Carson. Carson now off the block, and Misha has predictably replaced him with Chris. There was a moment because of how theatrically Todd had reacted to this whole situation, and there was some drama between Cynthia and Todd. People thought for a second that Misha was actually dumb enough to have put up Todd, but no, definitely she made the correct choice and put up Chris.
We were about to crown Shayna if she pulled that move,
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, but even still,
full Andy Aaron moment.
Again, even if Todd were to go up, Lamar, Todrick, and who would be the third? Hold on. Would they have the numbers? I don't think they would. Would they have the numbers to vote out Todd? I think they would, right? They would have her, Chris, and Carson could vote out Todd. It wouldn't matter what Lamar's vote is. So yeah, I guess in that case, that's the best case scenario. That's what she was angling for. But no. Chris is going up. Based off of the way these votes are shaking, I think it's going to be a huge Hail Mary for Chris to stay in the game at this point, headed into tomorrow's eviction. So, yeah, not great. Not great.
No, not at all.
And drama. We do get drama, though.
Yeah, a lot of people yelling at each other on the feeds today. If you have Paramount Plus, I was going to call it CBS All Access, not what it's called anymore. If you have Paramount Plus, go check out those live feeds. They're good.
Flashbacks. Yeah, we had a fight that went on off of the main cameras, but we could kind of hear some of it in the background between Cynthia and Todd, where I think there was a confrontation in the kitchen, something about the ribs, and then something about how Cynthia voted against Todd in the first eviction, and that's the reason why Todd is going to vote against Cynthia here. If that's the case, he will be, I believe, the only person voting. Actually, maybe not. He eventually comes around by the time we started recording, at least, to voting out Chris. But I think he saw the writing on the wall that there were 3 votes against Chris, and it didn't matter. But yeah, definitely a big blow-up fight there. At least some people have some emotional connection to the game, which is good.
Yeah. Oh man, I guess we'll just have to see what happens on Friday. We think Chris will go, but then that HOH will be exciting.
Yeah, I think that Carson, Lamar, Todrick should be 3 pretty locked-in votes against Chris, and it's 3 out of 5. So I think it would be very difficult for this vote to flip at this point with only 24 hours to go. So yeah, unfortunately for Chad, that's his winner pick. Will be likely leaving the game in 8th place. And we have this new 3-person grouping that will be anti, Todrick and Misha, with Lamar kind of as a loose 4th, and then Todd is kind of like loosely attached to, Misha and Todrick. So that's kind of the foundation right now. I would say Lamar is actually in a very strong position, kind of accidentally. And if he can actually kind of figure out how to play this end game correctly, he could be a potential dark horse to win. Otherwise, I still do really like Shayna, despite this move. I think she still retains a decent position even if Chris leaves. Although that's a big hit to her, because that was somebody who was going to take her to the final 2, who she would handily beat in a jury vote. So now with being, aligned with Carson and Cynthia, it's going to be a little bit of a tougher road because they will likely take each other to the final 2 over her, and I think she will have trouble beating either of them in a jury vote at this point. So that's going to be tricky, but I think that she has the chops to potentially maneuver it. We'll likely see if any of those 3 win. Pretty straightforward. Todrick and Misha, Noms. Lamar also will likely probably do the same. Todd, I have no idea what Todd will do if he wins the HOH. And Todrick probably puts up Carson and Lamar, would be my guess. Maybe Carson and Cynthia. Definitely with Carson as a target. But that's what we're looking at here, basically. So, yeah, it's Misha's going to need either Todrick to win HOH or for herself to win the veto here. Otherwise, she is going to be in a lot of hot water headed into the final 7 round.
Yeah. Hey, that's what happens when you're the HOH for 2 out of 3 rounds and most of the days that they've been in the game.
Vast majority, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
We're already over halfway in terms of days for this season.
We are. Yeah.
It's, as quickly as it began, it's coming to an end.
13 days from now is the finale.
Jesus.
All right.
So, but yeah, anything else we want to cover, I guess,
Oh,
I think we did it. I think that's about it.
Yeah. I mean, we only went to like an hour and change, an hour and 10, hour and 20 minutes here. So as far as like covering a lot of fucking content, that's pretty good.
No, we did. Yeah, we tied it up pretty good.
Yeah.
And hopefully everyone liked it.
Yeah.
Honestly.
They did.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. You guys want to shout out your social medias here, I guess?
Yeah.
Chad,
You can-
you wanna?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at ChadleyJP and on Twitter at ChadPerry25 right here.
You can follow me on Twitter at @theFakeBMar. That's BMARR. Tweet a little bit about Big Brother, a lot of bit about the Dolphins, and other sports stuff, and some movies, TV shows. Buffy the Vampire Slayer. I'll usually retweet stuff about that show when it comes up. So, if that's what you're looking for on Twitter, if you've been missing an account as eclectic as that, poof, I'm here for you.
Yes, so we can talk about some wicked good sports coverage, some good stuff going up. I don't know if you're doing anything but the Super Bowl in a couple of days here, but
Gotta figure that out. Maybe a gambling stream on Saturday, where we play some bets, preview it. Oh, I'm interviewing a guy who runs a Rams YouTube channel. He has
really? Yeah, that guy.
subscribers.
Yeah, man.
So pretty excited, a little nervous, but excited to talk to his name's Jake. He's a huge Rams fan. Does a lot of great coverage. So we'll be talking about the Super Bowl. We'll be talking about the accusations that the Rams bought their team through trades, which even if they did, that's not against the rules or anything. So like
The box split.
I don't see what the issue is, but yeah, he'll be there to defend the Rams' honor and to preview the Super Bowl, and then yeah, I'm very excited for the Super Bowl. It should be a good game.
Look,
I'm the Rams colors, but
I'm happy. I'm just happy that Matt Stafford is on a good team finally. So
yeah, he finally gets to show how fucking good he is.
yeah, 100%. So I'm rooting for the Bengals, but if the Rams went, no skin off my back.
Yeah, for me, either team winning, cool. I'm fine with that. They're both
100%.
Great teams, and it should be a good game. I'm hoping it doesn't somehow turn into a blowout like that. After the playoffs we had, which were some of the most epic games one after another,
so
it would be a huge disappointment for the Super Bowl not to live up to that.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, very excited for that. And then, you can follow me on Twitter at BenSharon. I haven't tweeted a ton about the feeds, mostly because they've been pretty quiet up until today.
And now you're recording the one time.
Yeah, the one time they're interesting. I was prepping for this podcast and just trying to keep up with the drama. Normally I would be more active live tweeting the live feeds, but it's tough when they go off for hours at a time, and then when there are useful conversations happening, they're cutting in and out for some reason. So not the best, but I am on there. Maybe preemptively follow me for Big Brother Canada 10, which is only a month away at this point. That's pretty much it. We'll be back next week to talk about the 4th and 5th, potentially 6th elimination, depending on if Monday is a double. I don't know if they're going to change the double schedule based off of the self-eviction. So we'll at least be talking about 2 evictions, if not 3, next time we are back.
It'd be kind of nice if they kept it and then they just end the game normally instead of the way that they end these games.
I think likely one of the 2 evictions next week will still be a double, either the Monday or the Friday. My guess is probably the Friday, but we'll see. I don't know what the schedule is. I don't know if one of them is a 2-hour, but yeah. I don't know. Regardless, we'll be back to cover it. However many people get evicted, maybe somebody else self-evicts. We'll talk about that. Hopefully even if Chad loses his winner pick, hopefully the Brian and my winner picks can stick around and we can maintain some honor for the podcast here.
Yeah.
Other than that, we'll be back next week.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for listening.
See ya.